No niin. Moi, hello everyone. Welcome to my talk, modifying Disobey batches and project RubberHeikki. As you may see, the original title has been changed. I got a lot of feedback about that, but I would not like to dwell on that anymore. The discussion has been public and everyone who is interested can find information about it, but I'm deeply sorry for that. But I'll be discussing about really simple hardware modification that we've done for Disobey 2018 batch. And we've done some cool stuff. And that's the project name RubberHeikki, comes from this little team that we have. I am Heikki Stark, and I work as a security auditor at Nixu by day, and I'm a keyboard entrepreneur by night. Some of you might have seen my previous talks on TurkuSec and TreSec, and even at the TurkuSec after the Christmas party, I gave a little speech about mechanical keyboards, but this time I won't be talking about that. But I must say that I don't know a lot about electronics, but still the hardware modification and hacking has been quite easy to get to because of the keyboard stuff. Lots of people have been kind of laughing at me about the mechanical keyboards, and I've been thinking about a way how to bring it to cybersecurity. And I think we managed pretty well with this little team that we have. So the RubberHeikki is a Kovusta Telecom project, and there's also a second Heikki called Heikki Juba, who actually knows the electronic stuff, and he makes a lot of cool stuff, like really cool stuff. I'd love to share a lot more about them. He's been visiting the Yle hacking series undercovered, and he's get a pretty cool talks at TurkuSec, I think. And he owns two very cute cats. I really like those little fur balls. There's also Joni Hasanen, who is actually hosting this evening. What a beautiful little coincidence. And Joni, you might remember Joni as well about the timely delivery of the HelSec website if you're new here. But Joni did a really good job on keeping the schedule on that one. And we also have dist, and the best way to describe dist is, I think, is just dist. And from this project, we started this with only me and Heikki. So there were two Heikkis, and the project name was really, it just came to our mind that there's two Heikki, and we're trying to do something that is a kind of like a product that is quite reasonably cheap, but still can be quite expensive for what it does. And we decided to go with these profile pictures just because you might have seen some of us. I am quite new in the information security field of area. So there's a picture of my dog, but you can see my face all the time. So I shouldn't be such a stranger face anymore after this talk. And let's go forward. Like I said, this is a Kovusta Telecom program and project, and I think that Kovusta Telecom repository has gotten really, how would I say, it's gotten quite popular during this past month, I think. And we got a lot of requests about open positions, but I think Kovusta Telecom is not hiring, and I'm not actually even working there. I'm just representing them for some reason. I'm not really sure why. But let's talk about the Disobey patches. The Kovusta Telecom was, I think it was founded on last year's Disobey, and it was basically for the patch puzzle, and there were all those Kovusta Telecom people all around and lots of cool gadget and features and gizmo that they done. But me and Heikki, we were thinking about a cool little project that involved keyboards and kind of like running these little payloads on those. So we were thinking about a development port. And then lucky for us, Heikki is part of the Disobey patch team. And he said that actually the Disobey 2018 batch is running the SMT32 processor. or STM. I think there might be a typo. All right. Anyways, it's running that processor, and it has buttons and blinking lights, and we just happen to have a few of them. And so we decided that this would be a really great development board. And one of the reasons that we are actually decided to give this talk is that we want to inspire people to start doing these little hardware projects with the Disobey patches. You can see lots of cool patch projects around the world, around the other patches that are available on other global information security conferences and all these kinds of things. I've seen lots of like cool wristband watches and things like this, but I think I have not seen any Disobey batch projects, but they are running pretty cool processors. They have pretty cool hardware. They have the newer ones. They even have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, which is just amazing. So a little bit about this our little project. The project RubberHeikki, we just decided to call it RubberHeikki because this kind of mimics the Hack5 Rubber Ducky, which is a USB attack tool. So when you plug it in, it runs the payload that it's meant to run. And our first proof of concept, we decided that we will have the controversial emoji on the product ID, just to see if when we plugged it on a Linux terminal, which doesn't support emojis, what would happen. And well, basically nothing happened, but it just stayed a little while, the emoji over there, and it was just curiosity that we had. But like I said, we started this with 2 Heikkis, and we got 2 Heikki-minded people to join the project. And after the first workshop, we actually had this Disobey 2018 patch running a full load of USB payloads that are based on the USB, the Rubber Ducky that the Hack5 sells, and they've developed a Ducky scripting language, which is really easy to use. And we kind of got ported it so that you could do it on the Disobey patch as well. And of course, since some of you who might know me, I might talk a little too much about the mechanical keyboards. So the next thing was that just one night I just wanted to try if I could swap those switches that are not so nice feeling. I wanted to switch them to mechanical switches, which I just happen to have a few of around my flats. But like you can see, it was really hideous. The second picture from in the middle, it was really hideous, and the switches went all over the places. And I think it was at this point when Dist joined the project, and we decided that we could make it a really cool and really good to use, really good gamepad, because the original firmware that it's running, it's really cool. All the LED animations are really great, and we didn't really want to throw it all away. So we came up, or actually Dist came up with a really cool 3D model for a really good ergonomic gamepad. And you'll see a render over here, but this is where we are actually right now. So in the upper picture, there's 3 of the prototypes that we had on the gamepad. The orange one on the background is actually what was going. I think Heikki designed it during the Disobey 2018 or somewhere near the time. Then the second one, which is kind of in the background, it was the second generation of that. And then we actually do have this right now. I can show it to you like this, but I will show it on you a little more in detail just in a minute. But we added the mechanical switches to the gamepad for the mechanical feel. And we 3D printed the case for the grip, and we decided that it's perfect. firmware and everything. It's just when you pick up the controller, you can feel that it's really like fun. I can't really explain it, but hopefully I can show it to you in a future meetup, and where it might be a little bit more we don't have to worry about hygiene so much when we are sharing a controller that everybody's fidgeting, but that might be in the really long future. But also we are at this point where we kind of added the little screen on this, and we added this little knob that is known as a rotary encoder. And I will pretty soon show to you what it actually does. But at this point that we are actually quite far in the project, we have to think about why we are doing this project. Like I said, we wanted to inspire people on starting these little hardware hacking projects that it might be beneficial for you, or it just might be stupid fun for you, like the gamepad, adding the mechanical switches for it. I've learned a lot doing these projects, and I still don't know anything about electronics. I barely can hold the soldering iron, and my soldering technique is really bad, but still after a few shortages that I've done on this patch, I think they are still working. I'm relatively confident about that. There was also the other reason that like how I wanted to contribute to the community. It was just that not a lot of people have the money to buy these cool gadgets like the RubberHeikki that we're comparing to this. So this is my kind of honest opinion. You might, of course, RubberHeikki has its place in the world, of course, and you can't always bring your Disobey badge and to the client, or if you're doing a red team or anything. But I'll show you a little bit more features that we've done for it. Here's a little comparison on the RubberHeikki versus the RubberHeikki. RubberHeikki is a closed source. It's quite expensive. I think it's $40, I think. Whereas RubberHeikki, we've done everything is open source. You can get the gearbest if you wanna, or the PCBs or anything from the Disobey repository, and the firmware that we're running is actually a open source firmware as well, which I will talk a little bit about more later. But RubberHeikki only holds one payload, and it runs as soon as you plug it in. That's really convenient in some of the cases, but in some of the cases when you might have a company which runs on a red team project, you might have a company that runs Windows and Mac OSs and everything parallel. So you can't really, all the recon you do in the world, might not be able to find a perfect exploit or payload to run on every single device. So we are not actually quite sure how many payloads the RubberHeikki is able to hold, because we've never managed to completely fill the EEPROM memory, which runs the firmware and which has the payloads inside. And well, RubberHeikki, it uses Java-based tools, and I've had lots of bugs with them. But of course, the mechanical switches, they're really nice, really nice. And here's a little comparison. So RubberHeikki, well, basically, even in physical size, it's real small, whereas RubberHeikki, this might not fit into your pocket, but this holds so many payloads that I think that it will be worth your while. And you don't have, we actually made it so that you don't have to solder all these things in place. But a little bit more about that also later. I think I'm rushing a little bit, but let's talk about the gamepad first. Because now, if Osku is ready, I would like to show you a little bit more. I have this dual camera rig going on. I think you should be able to see it now. All right, so this is actually what we've done. And as you can see from the LEDs, I think you can see relatively well, I think. But yeah, so I promised some ASMR, or at least Juho promised, so I will put my microphone next to the controller, and I hope that you will not find it annoying, but can appreciate the nice sound it does. All right, but I think that's enough for that. We used Gather and Yellow switches for this, and they're really cheap. I think they're 40 to 50 euros per switch, so you need 8 of those, so it's a couple of euros. And I'd really recommend getting Gather and switches instead of Cherry MX because they're cheaper and they're literally clones of that. If Osku is ready, I would love to share the presentation again. All right, thanks, Osku. And I will swap the camera. All right, so, but yeah, we made a 3D printed patch for this, like came bad. I can show it in this screen. There isn't any kind of small details. This doesn't have Covosta Telecom logo even on it, but it fits the patch itself quite smoothly in here. And then we went and laser printed the plate for the switches so that you can still see the animation. And if you're not able to get your hands on a laser cutter, then you are still able to do 3D printing on that case, on that gamepad. So there's a few soldering points. You don't have to desolder the switches, but the result will be a lot nicer. And I'm not sure if the final version of our 3D printed gamepad actually supports the original switches, so that you might have to desolder them if you are going to go with our STLs. But anyways, that has been a really cool project. I've seen laser beams cut through acrylic, and it's been so awesome to do this. And it's been so awesome to do this with that team that we've had, since they've been also very excited about the mechanical switches, definitely about the mechanical switches. All right, but okay, so the QMK is the quantum mechanical keyboard firmware, and it's actually quite funny that our badge is actually running the same firmware as keyboards. The best kinds of keyboards are running in the world. So, and we found this little firmware. Well, I had kind of lots of earlier experience with it, but we decided that we will go with this, and so that we don't have to invent the wheel again. And it also basically does everything that we want. So how do we get it into our badge? So you have to do this little jumper wire so that you short the regulator like shown in the picture and one of the resistors in the middle. We will have all these guides in and the documentation in Covosta Telecom's repo. Some of you, I really hope that none of you who have been looking at Covosta Telecom project have fallen into this rabbit hole just yet, because this repository has been up for, I think, 10 minutes or something. But anywho, it's quite simple where to put the device and the patch into the bootloader mode, in which you can upload the firmware using the QMK toolbox or the DFU util if you're running Linux. But anyways, it supports Windows and Mac OS, the QMK toolbox, and DFU util supports Mac OS and Linux. So you can do this basically on any kind of hardware that you're running already. And if you have the patch, then it's relatively simple. It will support the bad USB attacks. We have a documentation for that as well, if you are not willing to add the screen and a rotary encoder. So you can just plug it in. You can use it as a macro pad on your PC as well, and all those kinds of things. Really fun to do. And further modifying the badge. Like I said, we added the little OLED screen. And as you can see, the original device looks a little bit different than what it looks for us right now. I will just put on the camera, and Osku, if you would be so kind. Let's see, and there. All right, now, yeah. Okay, so this is how it actually looks on the device. And as you can see, my cable management isn't all that kosher. And they are kind of small solder points. And of course, you can't imitate what we've done from this, but it's fine to do this your way. It doesn't have to be the cleanest output that that people have ever seen. It's if it looks stupid but it works, it's not stupid. Remember that. But yeah, I will show how the screen and how the encoder and everything works a little bit later. And I will actually demonstrate one payload that I've done specifically for the HelSec presentation. And I'll just share my screen again. All right, and change the video. There. So for this, you require a I2C OLED screen, and you require a couple of resistors for the pull-ups and a rotary encoder. We have a part list if you're willing to do those. And the rotary encoder is really, really, really convenient for switching the layers. And switching the layers means that, for example, the first layer contains all the default key bindings that you have on those keys. And when you swap the layer, for example, turning the rotary encoder, it swaps to a second layer, and the buttons will have a different functionality at that point. If I hope that I can show it to you later on a little bit better how it actually works. But a little bit about the software. As you may know, software is a collection of data or computer instructions that tell the computer how to work. And we are using the UMK firmware that, like I said earlier, it's actually a firmware that runs mechanical keyboards, the custom ones. And we happen to find this quantum duck as well. And it takes the Ducky scripts that if you happen to have a earlier payloads on your RubberHeikki, you are able to just simply convert them to QMK form so that you can flash it onto the batch firmware, and you can assign it to any key that you want. So really convenient if you want to transit to Disobey batch from your RubberHeikki. Here's how the Ducky script kind of differs from the QMK. You can write the QMK scripts yourself as well. Here's a little USB payload that opens the YouTube link, and then it waits, I think, 3,000 milliseconds, and then it goes full screen. You might know the link by heart by now, but it's one of these classic songs from Rick Astley. You might want to Google that. But I think I've been rushing a little bit with the presentation, so I think this will be a pretty good demo time. I was thinking of doing the demo on the let's say, I was thinking about doing it on the Twitch chat as well, but I think they don't like so much about spamming. So I will just stop the screen share and let's show you guys a little better. Let's see how it shows. Hop. Okay, you might recognize this logo already. So the screen is actually working. And okay, I need to zoom out a little bit, and I have to work the camera manually. But yeah, so as you can see, it has one LED on already, and that means that we are on the layer 1. And we decided to do it so that now you can basically see the screen. I think maybe no. Okay, I will show it a little closer up soon. But we made it so that for the people that don't want to include the screen and the rotary encoder, you can do key binds that change the layers, but we made it so that the LEDs are actually, they show you on what layer you are. And I have 4 layers, and it, as you can see, it changes the payloads that are shown on the screen. So now that you have 8 buttons, you don't have to worry about forgetting on what script runs on from what button. We have a screen for that if you're willing to do it. And it's really crisp. Even though it's a really small screen, I think you can even see quite clearly that it's really, really sharp. And here was the Twitch payload that I did, and then a couple of those. I have one of these, yeah, important stuff. And there's what you can basically do. So these were the scripts that I found from the Ducky script repository already, and I just wanted to share them with you. But as you can see, it's quite convenient. Maybe not so stealthy, but I think that it still works. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and see all the, oh no, all the stuff. Oh no, there's so much notifications from Discord. But if you're in the Discord and in the stream chat, I think you should see a payload coming right now. All right. So yeah, I think I managed to fit in without anyone else doing it. And I'm really sorry for the Twitch chat people that I just simply can't show it because of the spam protection. So sad. But yeah, it was just a little spam. And I will now go back to sharing the screen and my face. Hey, but yeah, I think you might find that project really interesting. And if you have a soldering iron, you're quite far away already doing the ability to do the project. They have quite small solder points, but I think you'll still manage. I did, but I also lent Heikki's lab for that. Yikes. All right. So I decided to have like a really small Q&A, the frequently asked questions about the RubberHeikki. So I think you are really that you can do this project if you want. I think this is a really cool project to do, and the feature that it has over the commercial products that exist in the world, I think you'll find it if you have the patch already, for example, it's really cool and really cheap project to do. You don't have to get much. The OLED screens are relatively cheap. The switches are really cheap, and the encoder as well. You can do this on different Arduino products as well. And bad USB is the oldest trick in the book, and there's lots of mitigations for it. If you don't want to use it for offensive security research stuff, you can use it as a, let's say, you can get a budget Elgato Stream Deck from your Disobey patch. And if you add the OLED screen, it works really well with your computer as well. But that was pretty much about the RubberHeikki. We have a couple of other projects. We are still working on the RubberHeikki as well. Disobey 2017 patch, the best way to use it will probably Frisbee that glows in the dark. It has cool LEDs as well. The author from Disobey 2019 patch, it runs the ESP32, which has a Wi-Fi module, and I think it would be a pretty sweet tool to use as well. Smart home integration for Disobey 2020 patch. Some of you might have it as well, and you might control your lightning lights with the patch. I think there might be something on the repository already. Flying cars, of course, I think this is a relatively small next step for us, and of course, decentralized internet to Kouvola from Kouvosta Telecom. We added a couple of repositories, so the Kouvosta Telecom patchpad repository should be open, and it might have the STLs if you want to print out the gamepad for yourself. And then we have the GUMG firmware. We had to do a different fork on it because GUMG firmware has kind of bad habits on managing GitHub repos, if you ask me. And of course, you can get all the original firmware. You can get all the electronic schematics if you want to do your own little fork on the patch as well. You can find it from the Disobey's GitHub as well. And I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for having us. And I really hope that you have some good questions. I saw lots of notifications going. I'm really scared on what you might have to ask from me.
Cool, thank you. It was really interesting talk, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Joni, you might have heard, have seen this project earlier, I think.
Yeah. So the most important question has to be like, what switches are you using on your personal keyboard?
What switches I'm using? Oh boy, I actually got onto my desk all the different switches that I actually have. I have a handful of those. I counted that I have 9 different switches on my house currently, but I'm running Xilinx version 2, which are awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Then, like, if someone would like to build the RubberHeikki and get all the parts like switches, resistors, and screens. Where should they get them from? Like from Finland or from abroad?
Of course, support your local electronic stores if you have them around. I wholesomely recommend them from the bottom of my heart. But if you want to go the cheapest way, AliExpress is probably the cheapest. It might take the longest, but also Ducky is great place. Mouser is great place. I think, Joni, you might name a few as well.
Yeah, well, usually I get them from AliExpress.
Yeah.
Tracking code.
Yeah.
And then how many layers is too many layers?
I think this question might be coming from one of the project members. I saw him do a 9-key macro pad with I think it was almost 40 layers. I think I can manage with 2 layers, but it's up to you. I don't know how many payloads you might need on a red team case, but I think that it might be at least this patch. I think it should be so that at least you can be prepared for anything, unlike with the Rubber Ducky, you have only 1 payload and you have to make it count. Of course, with Rubber Ducky, you can kind of like just throw it somewhere and hope that somebody plugs it in and hope for the best. But this, I think that the first thing that comes to my mind about laying Disobey patch won't be to add it on a computer.
Yeah. And can you help with the hacker patch?
Can I help with that? I have 1 hacker patch here, as you can see. This is really, yeah. Can't help you more.
You finally got one.
Yeah, I finally got one. I didn't even participate to the Disobey, but somehow got the patch. Can't be that hard this year.
Where one can buy a RubberHeikki? Do you have any plans?
I think we're working on it. I think you might want to check out Kouvosto Telecom's Twitter and wait for further notices. I think that's that Twitter has been quite interesting lately and will show something in the future, I think, about getting these things.
Okay, let's see. As a Heikki-minded person, where do you normally meet? Someone would like to join.
Heikki-minded persons. That's a good question. I think it might be some abstract thing that makes you a Heikki-minded person. It's really hard to put your finger on it, but I think if you just look into your heart and try to find the inner Heikki, then you will do just fine.
Cool. Let's take one more. There are plenty of questions, but I think our other Heikki is better.
Might be
to answer for those.
Yeah, I don't know about the electric stuff. I just solder.
So, like, do you have any idea? Can we install Koronavilkku in Disobey 2021 batch?
On what year Disobey batch?
2021. Next year.
It might be a better suited question for you, Joni, I think.
So should we add it on the backlog?
Yeah, we might add it on the slides.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So there are more questions. Go through them if you want.
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
Other Heikki will go through them. And
I just want to point out that you can get in touch with the team in the Mattermost and in the HelSec Discord as well if you're looking forward to doing this project. I think we'd be happy to help you.
Yeah, I mean Twitter and GitHub.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I would like to thank all of our speakers from today's, and please hang around and have some after talks in the Discord. There's only one table now, but I think we can add more. And are you gonna stay?
Yeah, I'll be staying for a while.
Yeah, so we could probably table for RubberHeikki, and people can come and ask more questions in there. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
thank you all, and thank you all, and let's see you in the next virtual meetup.